Hi there, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, my guest is Gary Mitchell. Gary is a business coach for lawyers or law firms since 2005. He's also author of 3 books, including his recent Growing a Law Practice During COVID-19. He also recently launched his new app called Law Practice Builder app, and he's also a host of his podcast, the LawBiz Podcast. During our discussion, Gary shared insights on some of the key challenges and opportunities lawyers have to deal with in order to grow and scale their law firms. He also shared his personal experience why some of the law firms don't scale as planned. And finally, he shared some of the obstacles that lawyers have to deal on a personal level, whether it's a mindset or some of the skill set they have to develop in order to grow their companies. If you like this content, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Until next time, enjoy this episode. Please welcome Gary Mitchell. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is someone very special, Gary Mitchell. Gary, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Gurmeet. It's great to be here.
Okay, likewise. So, you've been helping business leaders, especially in the law side, for building business, scaling firms. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. Where you see, Gary, let's start with, where you see some of the biggest challenges over the last few years that the law firms are dealing with, or any business is dealing with when they try to scale a company.
Well, you know what, Gurmeet, I've always had the philosophy around any business has a lot of challenges, but when you're running a business that is 99% all about people, like a law firm, and people happen to be the most challenging part of any business, you're looking at a very challenging set of obstacles to overcome. And then you throw in COVID, right? And then you throw in the Great Resignation, and you throw in generational differences. Wow.
It can't get complex than that, I guess, right?
Very complex. And at the end of the day, Gurmeet, what is a law firm without good people, right? It's a service, it's a professional service industry that relies on good people, talented people. Without them, a law firm cannot exist, right? Yeah. You got tech companies that have talented people, but they've got an app, they've got a product, they've got something out there that just keeps generating revenue, right? With a law firm, if you don't have good people, you have nothing. So there's been some real upheaval in the market. Like, all the news the last couple of years, right? The Great Resignation, and everyone talking about how people were just... I'm a fan of history, Gurmeet. And when you look back at any massive event that has happened throughout history to human beings, it disrupts everything, right? It turns everything upside down. One example of that was people having to work from home, right? Okay. I wrote in my preface, and the publisher let me use the word ass, which I'm very happy about, because it was very prominent in this. Had COVID-19 not come around, there is no way ever that law firms would have allowed lawyers and staff to work from home. Never. But COVID came and kicked that industry and many others in the ass, literally. And they were forced to do it. The unfortunate thing is I'm seeing a trend now where many of these firms, and you see it in other industries, are mandating their employees to come back to the office full time. And I'm completely bewildered. First of all, these companies, these law firms didn't spend a dime training their people how to work from home. They had to, muffle through, figure out, especially I had single moms, right? They've never worked from home. Schools are shut. They're taking care of the children and they're working from home and all these challenges, but they figured it out, right? They figured it out. And at the end of the day, I'd say 9 out of 10 clients were happier working from home. They reported being more productive, more balanced, right? Because they'd take a short break from their work and get something done around the house, or they'd be closer to their family. And so I'm baffled at this trend of employers all various industries demanding their people come back to the office. What are they thinking? I mean, had they not learned anything through the Great Resignation and all these people saying, wait a minute, no, I'm not putting up with that. I've had enough. I'm leaving. All this talent leaving, right?
So where you think that's driven from? What is that
fear.
based on?
I think
is it a
it's
fear?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fear of not having the people in your purview, not having an eye on them. It's fear of them not doing the work or living up to the work. But they did it for a year and a half, 2 years, right, or more. I mean, who knows? I lost track of time, right? But here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. There may be some people who will game it, right? There are people who are going to game anything at any point in time, always, no matter what system you have, no matter how great your company is, no matter how great your incentives are, there are going to be people that are going to find a way to game it. Okay? That's the way it is. It's human nature. But most people are more productive. They're happier. They're going to be staying. They're going to be more loyal. They're not going to be as stressed. Isn't that what we want for our employees to help retain them? Right? At the end of the day, do you think clients care where the work is done?
No,
they don't.
Yeah, as long as the work
and they don't care if it's done at 2:00 in the morning or in business hours, as long as it meets their deadline and their needs. Right? They don't care. So why are the employees caring? I think it comes down to fear. They want to make sure and control. Right? They want to have control. And I mean, I've learned a lot about control over the years, Gurmeet. I mean, I've let go of a lot. I used to try and control almost everything, and in reality, what we actually have control over in our lives, in our business, it's like, so small.
So, is it fear only control, Gary, or I'm thinking from business side as well? How about the fear of losing confidential information at home? You have a less control over it, even though from technology standpoint, you can secure every nuts and bolts, but nobody can stop somebody's client's confidential information. People have access to. Somebody can take a picture. So is that part of it, or am I misreading it? Is there only fear of managing people, or is also fear of information, or that the client confidentiality stuff comes in as well?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you that there's probably fear there, but here's the bottom line. Everything's hackable.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's hackable. So, like, if people are going to want to get information, they're going to get it. Whether it's locked up at an office in a highly secure environment, or it's in someone's den in their home. Right? I really believe that in today's day and age. If people want to get to something, want to hack something, they're going to get it. So maybe there is fear, but I don't see the point in it, right?
Got you.
I mean, as well, if we look at law firms, I mean, they are the most skeptical, most critical, most risk averse. I mean, talk about fear. They look at the worst case scenario at all at any given point. So if there is fear out there, it would be extreme in the legal industry. Compared to others.
Well, that's what they do, right? They're managing, and I think that's their profession. They have to look at the risk and they have to manage it.
That's the whole irony, right? As a business coach, I work with lawyers to help them exercise the other side of their brain, right? That analytical, critical thinking, pessimistic, risk averse lawyer mind, the right side of the brain functions, is exactly why they're hired, right? We as individuals, business owners, we want to take care of things. We want people to either prevent or correct or fix, right? And that's why we hire lawyers. The irony here, Gurmeet, is that everything that makes a person, an individual, a fantastic lawyer, holds them back from being good at business. Creative, innovation, collaboration, being able to take some risk, going out there, out of the comfort zone. It's the complete opposite of all the traits, personality traits, and skills that make them a great lawyer.
Wow.
That are required for a great business. And you know what? I'll never forget one senior partner at an international firm. We're on a call one day and he goes, "Have you ever noticed, Gary, how everything that makes a great lawyer makes them terrible at business?"
Wow.
We had a laugh. I mean, senior partner, international firm, one of the largest firms. In fact, I read recently, it is now the largest firm in the world. So we're talking, billions. And here's a guy, a few years away from retirement, and he acknowledged, what makes the greatest lawyer holds them back from business and often impedes any growth. So my main focus as a business coach in legal is helping them park that lawyer brain. We're not getting rid of it. They need it for their craft, right? Lawyering.
Yeah.
But help them exercise and stretch the left brain function, right? And slowly move them out of their comfort zone, stretching their comfort zone till they start seeing some results. Proof. Lawyers want proof.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's get you some proof. So it's very fascinating. Like over the years, I've taken a more of a psychological approach to the coaching, understanding the lawyer mind. Lawyers are not alone. I mean, you look at other highly intellectual people, right? Doctors, dentists, architects, engineers. They all tend to have very similar personality traits. Lawyers, I would say, seem to be at the far end of the spectrum, right? Because of what they do every day in and day out, right? So it's been challenging. Like I always say, Gurmeet, growing up, I never thought of myself as a masochist, but I started working with lawyers.
Yeah, to your point about taking, it's a great point, Gary. I've seen great lawyer, and there's so much potential in a firm, but they just don't get to the potential. They just held back with their own
They stay in the safe place.
approach.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I always wonder what's going on with these lawyers. They have a great potential, the greatest lawyer probably you can think of. They know inside, very good at the trade, but the potential to scale a business. I don't see that there.
Well, you know what? I'll never forget. I mean, there must have been some kind of divine intervention when I was getting started.
Okay.
My very first client, young partner at a very prestigious litigation firm. He says to me, like almost verbatim, I mean, this is 2006, so 17 years ago, but I'll never forget because it kind of set me up for what my target market should be. Because he said he looked at three people. I'm brand new. I'm brand spanking new. Okay, I don't have a scratch on me. I'm that newbie to the industry. I'd spent 9 months doing research, but this potentially will be my first client. Okay. He looked at a couple of other people who have been in legal marketing, and he said to me, he goes, Gary, why I chose you, I already know how to be a great lawyer. I want what you have, that entrepreneurial drive and spirit. He basically told me right out of the gate who my target market is, right? He acknowledged, because I don't train lawyers how to be lawyers. I've never been a lawyer. I never practiced law. I didn't go to law school. That's not my stuff. My stuff is the business side of law, right? But when he said that, I was like, and I was reflecting a couple of years later, and I'm like, wow, like that has held true all these 17 years later.
Yeah,
that's held true. It's like, you be great lawyer, and I'll help you become great on the business side.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So this big gap between the one side of the brain or other side of the brain, we're talking about the skill set. Is that taught in the schools, Gary, or is it just somebody has those personalities, somebody doesn't have it, or is it just where's that coming from?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think we all have natural skill sets that we're born with, right? Okay. It comes from, like, if you look at your parents, right? I'll use my own parents as an example. Okay. Both of my parents were creative, right? My mother was more on the music side, performing, singing, playing instruments, things like that, writing. Also very creative in the kitchen. She was awesome in the kitchen.
Nice.
My dad was a graphic artist, so visually creative. I inherited a lot of those skills from both of them, which has come handy as a coach, I might add, like writing, articles, books, podcasts, all that. But I think we all have inherent natural abilities that we've been given. Yeah. But these things can be taught. They absolutely can be taught. The one thing I know about lawyers is they're smart, and they've been trained to learn. The biggest thing about law school is it trains them how to learn. They don't learn law in law school. Yeah. And they certainly don't know how to practice. They don't learn how to practice law in law school. And every single lawyer will tell you that. They will admit, no, law school does not prepare anyone to actually practice the law or run a law firm. But it does get them in their brain into discipline of how to learn. So if you take them and guide them in the right area, the right direction, giving them practical, down-to-earth strategies and tips to follow, they learn very quickly.
Interesting. Wow. So if they can learn that, Gary, let's go on this process. If they can learn, so it's a learnable skill. So what we're simply saying, so what does it take that to, why is one lowers, holding back and other one's learning? Where is that coming from, mindset, or is it coming from what they're trying to do?
That's a really good question. A typical lawyer personality is one, that's a really good question. Okay. And one of the reasons why I never do great group training. Okay. Lawyers will never admit in front of anyone, that they don't know everything, that they don't already have the answer to every question. It's part of their image, right? They are looked upon as trusted advisors who should know everything about everything. And they don't admit, for the most part, that they don't know everything. So the first step is they have to let that wall come down. They have to admit that they need help in an area. And that's very, very hard for them to do.
Yeah, that can be easy.
Very, very hard. Okay. That is the most challenging part of my entire job or process. It's not when I get to work with them, by the time we start working, they're ready. They are ready to go. They recognize this is an area that they could improve if they're already doing well. Because it's not only that, like I've had clients who are actually doing very well, but recognize, okay, to take it to great, you need to. Like you're working out at the gym, you're doing pretty good, but you're like, I want to get to the next level. You hire a trainer.
Yeah,
that's
new
right.
trainer.
Yeah. It's about, like this guy, going back to my first client, Gurmeet.
Okay.
I mean, he was drinking the juice, literally. He comes into coaching sessions, because back there in my first year, I did in person. He's drinking the green juice, okay? He was off alcohol. He was working out every day. Like it wasn't just me and helping him with this practice. He was all aspects of his life. Next level. I mean, if I get him on my podcast as a guest, I think I'm going to entitle the episode "Getting the Juice" or something like that, because it was just like he was in transformation mode, right? Yeah. This is worth noting too. Remember litigation, so that's law, like trials in court. Tend to be the more animated type lawyers, right? Yeah. Solicitors do the paperwork. They're a little more introverted, quiet. Anyway, within 2 years of working with me, and I'm not saying this on me, but interesting, he landed the largest litigation file in the 100-year-old history of the firm, and became the #1 business developer and income earner, and he was mid-40s. So all the guys in their late 50s into their 60s, he was outperforming them. Yeah. And that litigation file lasted for years. Getting back to your question though, the only barrier is if they won't admit that they need help. And again, I understand it's very hard for them to admit that, because all their programming, everything, their personality type to begin with, the law school, articling, the law firm culture, the culture within the industry, everything has programmed them to have this lawyer wall, right? Mm-hmm. I know it. I'm confident. I'm going to walk into that courtroom and I'm going to win this case kind of attitude and mentality. And to let that guard down and let someone else in, it can be very difficult. And, I always say, like, the clients pre-filter coming to me. I work with, these are outstanding people. These are fantastic people. Lawyers don't always have the best reputation. But I'll tell you that I'm very fortunate, because the people who do let that guard down, who are willing to let someone else know that they could use help, they're amazing. And the transformational things that I've seen is incredible, right?
Yeah, well, that mindset of staying close and it may be they're overlooking all the opportunities around them or great people around them. It can block you out. I interviewed Kevin on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and his book title was "Staying Coachable." So a lot of business leaders, if you're not staying coachable, are you coachable? Do you have a mindset that you want to get somewhere? Are you coachable? I think that's what you're referring to. That
Absolutely.
You're a great lawyer, but are you also coachable to get to where you want to get to, or are you just gonna stay close?
I've had 3 or 4 coaches. I've had 5 personal trainers. throughout my life. And my motto is, if I stop learning, light the match, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you want to keep learning? Why wouldn't you want to keep improving, right? But it is mindset. And mindset, what I've come to acknowledge, I had for some time, it's not a new light bulb going on. What I've come to acknowledge is that attitude and mindset accounts for well over 95% of absolutely everything. Where you went to school, your grades, blah, 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 blah. Your attitude and mindset will take you farther than anything else. I've seen it time and time again. Because when you have the right, correct, positive mindset and great attitude, you're going to do whatever it takes to succeed. And that includes getting help, right?
Yeah.
I always say, do you think these Olympians make the podium on their own?
Yeah.
or
how many coaches? How many coaches they get?
Or someone getting an Academy Award gets to that level without help.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There's so many blind spots.
All of these self-made, amazing billionaire entrepreneurs, if they're honest, and some have been, they will admit they got a hell of a lot of help along the way. There's no self thing as a self-made, I'm going to be politically correct here, person, right? There is no such thing. We all need help.
There's teams behind them. Not only one person, there's teams and teams behind them, right? So, any athlete, you got a fitness coach, you got a nutrition coaches, you got a, posture coaches, you name it, every little,
psychology. There's
psychology coaches, mindset coaches, right? So you need that. You can't go over that. So, but that's where I think business itself is, as to your point, to the mindset and attitude is 95%. At least. So successful firms have a certain attitude as well. They have a certain mindset as well. Not only that the owner or leadership, but the whole team and whole company has a certain attitude or certain mindset as well for them to get to where they want to get to, right?
Yeah. I just watched, while we're on this, I love having these kind of conversations because you'd actually never know where they're going to go specifically. But I just watched the movie Air on Prime. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. And it's the story about how Nike signed Mike Jordan. You want to talk about a company having attitude? And the guy, Matt Damon's character, plays the guy who goes after Michael Jordan. He's a rookie, okay? I don't want to give too much away. It's a movie worth watching if you like history, if you like sports, if you just like business. But they took a moonshot. It's really cool to see the background story about how that all came about. And to this day, Michael Jordan makes $400 million a year passive income from the Nike Jordan Air shoes.
Wow.
It's a good story. Another one, if you don't like reading books, all right, if you don't want to study, there's a couple good movies to watch. The other one is the Founder, all about McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about scaling. You got a good system? It's systemizing, templating, duplicating, and making sure all of these things are easily followed by other human beings. Right? Then you get good leadership. You plug in leadership, you plug in development and training and learning, you're going to have a winning scenario. Right?
Wow, very interesting. So let's talk about the system side of things, the process side of things. So the law firms, definitely we talk about the mindset, the person, the guy on the top on leadership, they have to have a certain trade to look for help. But how about as an organization itself, the way they function, the way they do customer service or the way I reach out to people, do they have a structure normally that they need a structure to even have a business structure so they can scale? Or that something is lacking in a lot of law firms when they're trying to scale their firms, Gary?
Well, the bigger firms all have professional management, right? They have, it's a whole structure. They have full-on professional management. But lawyers are still at the helm as far as leadership. In other words, managing partner is still above CEO. CEO is the professional management. Managing partner is the partner that the other partners have chosen out of the lawyers to take on that responsibility. So it always comes back to leadership. Always, right? If that leader is a good leader, a great leader, has vision, is great at building a team around them, I mean, that's huge, right? it's not just their vision, it's the team, including the professional management, then everything else will come from there. And, I've even seen in smaller firms where you have a great structure, you have great systems, but you always have great leadership first.
Yeah. It starts from there.
It never happens by accident.
So how does the leadership work, Gary? So I've seen some law firms, they have a 10 managing partners, 5 managing partner. You could only imagine, because I'm from technology background. We, in my world, decisions have to be made on all the time, like on a weekly basis, on a dime, just like that, right? You don't know what's changing other side. You play the defense and offense, you gotta make a decision, right? So daily, weekly basis. When you have that many managing partner, doesn't it make it difficult to make a decision if they all have to get involved?
I have an expression about that, Gurmeet. Law firms move at the speed of backwards.
Wow.
It's not just like when you talk about that, you're talking about a national or an international firm, and they have office managing partners all across the country, all over the world. There is one managing partner that is, at the top of the realm. But law firms have struggled for as long as they've been around because everyone's got an opinion. When you're looking at a partnership, they're all owners.
Yeah.
Right. So they all consider that they have an equal say. And they don't like to let control go. So they want to be a part of every decision. It can be very, very, very challenging. I mean, one of the sweet spots I have is working with a small firm owner, because it's me and that person, right? I'm advising, they make a final decision, and then we move and we get stuff done. With a large firm, you've got it's very much like government. You've got leadership, you've got management, you've got committees, then you've got the general partnership. That's all bureaucratic, right? And everything has to be signed off. I mean, when you're talking about tech, making a decision on a dime, making a decision is 6 months. I mean, if it's a major decision affecting the direction of the firm, 6 months would be quick.
Wow.
No, it's actually mind-boggling. Like if you've never been in legal and you come in and you look at it for the first time, coming from tech or, well, pretty much any other industry, you'd be like, wow. But they still managed to do very, very well. I don't want to get down on them. I mean, there's amazing management. And over the years, I've met amazing professional management, right? These are the CEOs, CMOs, CFOs, all the people basically doing the heavy lifting, right? But it's still up to the lawyers to make their decisions in the end. And, I mean, there are some, Britain and Australia are way ahead of North America, way ahead. I mean, they even have in both Britain and Australia, you can own part of a law firm without being a lawyer, right? They've opened it up. And not
as
in
a business,
America.
as a
not
business.
In North America, yes, not in North. And they have professional management. The lawyers let it go. They lawyer, and then they have professional management running this business. And they're efficient. Things move. Things get decided. The lawyers lawyer, and the managers manage. And I don't know where we are as far as catching up to that. If we will, I don't know. But it's interesting to see what's going on in other parts of the world, right?
Yeah, no, I've seen a couple of firms where they have this professional management, but not to the efficiency level where it should be. I've seen so many issues with those. Maybe we have to mature up that professional management to the level where Australia and other countries you mentioned. But I've seen a couple of them here in Ontario, not to the level where it should be. I see so many different ways.
There's a lot of potential.
A lot of potential there.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And those are the challenges, definitely. And if you can overcome some of those challenges, definitely there's a potential is a huge, you can grow a business to any level you want to.
It goes back, Gurmeet, it goes back to the people part. The people part of any business is the most challenging because people are complex, right? You plug in a computer program, boom, right? Yeah. AI now, right? It can write something for you. But people, managing people, like you've heard the expression, herding cats. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about talent, Gary.
Okay.
We all, I know everybody's going through the talent shortage in Canada. Definitely, where you are. I'm not sure if you guys are struggling with the same. Companies struggling with the same Whether trying to retain a top talent, because I know professional services need to retain a top talent. We do the same thing. We always trying to compete on a top talent in the market. How they finding the talent and how they're retaining it. What is some of the challenges around people and retaining the talent and training those people, whatever they got to do to keep them for longer run.
Well, first of all, getting the right people. I just wrote another article about this, but I'll refer back to one of my favorite books ever written. It's called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Okay?
Great book. Yeah.
Oh, it's one of my, it's like, I can't call it my Bible, but if there was such a thing for business, that's the closest thing for me. I've read a lot of books. Anyway, the two quotes that stand out for me from that book and about HR and talent are: get the right people on the bus, get them in the right seats. Now, I go beyond that because, okay, that's getting the right people and then getting them in the right roles. Then you need to properly onboard them. Then you need to give them regular training, development, and support, reviews, and incentives. There are many, many different steps, in my opinion, on a successful winning HR formula. There is lots of talent out there. As we know, there's been lots of talent unhappy with where they've been, right? COVID, going back to my point about history and all that, I knew there was going to be a whole bunch of disruption, because when something happens on that level, people stop for the first time, maybe in their lives, and look around and reflect. So I'm flying back from Mexico early because of the lockdown, and I'm thinking, okay, family law is going to spike. Obviously, bankruptcy law is going to spike. Employment law is going to spike. Mergers and acquisitions, tank. Commercial real estate, tank. Corporate, tank. And all this stuff is going on. And then not too long after that, those things started to happen. And then you hear about the Great Resignation. And I'm like, of course, because most people don't take time to reflect regularly in their life. We're all like going, right? We're going, I head down, do the work, right?
Yeah.
If you have a family, that adds complexity to everything. You have your spouse, your partner, you may have children and all their lives and mortgage and car payments and blah, blah, and all of a sudden you're 50 and you've never stopped to take stock, right?
Yeah.
Well, that all changed because of COVID. I mean, if you had a heartbeat, you stopped and you looked around and you went, what am I doing here? Right? My God, like it was so profound in my lifetime. Okay. I think the last time something on this level occurred would be World War II, where it was so big and so profound that it's almost like the world stopped for a minute and everybody took a deep breath and looked around and went, what am I doing with my life? Right.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I think opportunity. I think if you're smart, if you're an employer and you need to get good talent, then be flexible. Give people what they want. Don't fight it. If they want to work from home and they can perform at a level that is up to your standards and the clients are happy, depending on what your business is, let them, right? Yeah. If they want to work 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week at home, or vice versa, let them. If they want to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, let them. Like, why is there so much control, trying to retain control over this? The other thing too is when you get good people, you do what it takes to keep them, right? Yeah. And that's not, even though inflation's going crazy, everything's costing more, money is still not number one. It's down the list. It's like 6, 7, depending on which industry, it can be as low as 10. What's number one is a feeling of contributing, being a part of something, getting feedback, learning, growing, especially younger generations, right? Yeah. They want to be a part of a team, which in my mind is fantastic because most businesses lack team, right? So, like, I don't think this is that difficult for me, except for the fact that everybody is trying to do everything the way it always used to be.
But would you think
changed?
Yeah, but would you think it's a different skill set though, Gary? When we manage people, previously before COVID, especially in the law firms, as you mentioned, that we manage people in an office. Standing in a boardroom and talking to everybody is a different skill set. You can communicate with them. You can tell them what needs to be done. When you're trying to communicate and manage people, manage expectation, and try to help them to this hybrid of technology, whether it's in a Zoom or whether half of them in office, half of them in a Zoom, or do they need to learn a different skill set to manage people now differently than they were doing in the office? So they may have to learn a different skill set. You think that's something is coming from as well? It's a different management style, a different management skill set.
That's a good question. One that my first coach brought up in a discussion we were having. And I challenged him as I'm going to challenge you.
Sure.
No. If you're a good leader, then you can lead in person or you can lead over Zoom. The problem is there are not good enough leaders. In most industries, you do really well as in your craft, okay? Yeah. You're probably good at bringing in clients. So we're going to reward you and give you a leadership position. And we're not going to give you any training or experience. We're just going to throw you at that leadership role. And now you're responsible for 20, 40, 60 people. Go do it and do it well. But we're not going to give you any support or training or learning. Yeah. That's what I see as the problem. I mean, leadership is leadership. If it's good leadership, it can be communicated the way we're communicating right now. So I say that's BS, and it's another excuse for poor leadership. I don't think you have to learn a new skill set to turn on your computer. I really don't. I feel very strongly about this because I've seen so much bad leadership. And I've also seen good intentioned people being promoted into leadership, and then they're like fledgling. They're like drowning. They're like, it's like they're in the water and they're trying their best, but their company is not giving them any support, right? Yeah. They were never schooled. They were never experienced in leadership. The reason why they got there is because they did their job really well. Or
been there for a number of years. I've seen that in my industry.
It's either seniority. That's right. Okay, you're the next guy up. Or like you killed it. You brought in all these clients, you built your team, you built your department, you built your practice, whatever the case may be, whatever company you're in. So now we're going to reward you and we're going to throw you to the wolves.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's literally insane, right?
And I see that so often, Gary, that this point you're making, I've seen in my industry a lot. Somebody been there for 10, 12 years. So only two ways I've seen leaders want to reward people, whether it's with the pay increase or with the title. So sometimes they want to do pay, sometimes they do title, sometimes pay, sometimes. So what happens is you're increasing a pay, you keep increasing a title, but the person has the same mindset, same skill set. Right. So how do you change that? I
think you gotta like, I think overall, I think training and development has been shoddy, undervalued, and done very poorly. And even when it's been done, even when, again, let's say good intention, because I don't think, Gurmeet, I don't think people go out of their way to harm. Right?
No.
Like I don't.
I don't think anybody does that.
No, I don't. For the most part, I don't. Like if we're talking in business, I don't think leadership in a company is saying, "Oh, we're going to get this guy. We're going to throw him into leadership." No. But human condition. We want to press the easy button. Thank you, Staples. Not. Yeah. Thank you for spending so much money on advertising, brainwashing us to believe there is such a thing as an easy button. There is no easy button. There is no one size fits all. Okay. But companies feel better when they throw $100,000 at some group training. They bring in this well-respected facilitator. Nothing against that person. They have the knowledge. They have like amazing strategies and tips and all of that. And they get everybody together in a room and they regurgitate. And then they may go for a very expensive dinner. And then Monday morning, they expect everyone to have new habits and change their behavior.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It literally is insane. It doesn't work. Like, how much longer are they going to keep doing this? And they keep throwing more money at it. More money, thinking, okay, it's almost like government. Well, we just spent this much money. They don't talk about the outcomes or the results or what they're trying to achieve. They talk about how much money they spent.
Yeah.
That doesn't cut it with me. It's like, what are the results? What has changed for the better? Has behavior changed? Has performance changed? Has attitude changed? No.
Or the
No.
results, or the result has the result
Exactly.
changed?
Well, all those things lead to results, right?
Yeah.
And nothing changes, but they keep doing it. I mean, what is the definition of insanity, right?
Yes.
Keep doing the same
Same
thing,
thing.
expecting different results.
You got it.
I shake my head.
Yeah.
I don't have an MBA.
Yeah.
I have practical, hands-on experience starting my first business in Toronto at 25, right?
Wow.
Figuring things out, working with people, building relationships. It was not in a classroom. It was in life.
Practical. Yeah.
Practical, right? Like my big dream one day, I would love to be able to build an entrepreneur school at one of these big business schools. And it's not going to be theory at all. It's going to be practical, hands-on, entrepreneurial mindset focused education.
Yeah, that's hard. That education is hard to find. I mean, that's where schools are filling kids, right? What they're teaching is.
That's why I have a career.
Yeah.
Gurmeet, seriously, like when I started in legal, I was, maybe 3 years in, I was like, oh, I better do well as quickly as I can because they're going to finally figure out how to do this internally, and I will be out of a career. Yeah. Nope, that's 14 years ago.
Yeah, not happening.
It's maybe moved a millimeter.
Yeah,
and that millimeter happened because of COVID.
Good. So there's so much wisdom, Gary, so much to learn from you, so much to draw from your experience. So talk about your journey. So what got you interested in helping lawyers to scale that? I know you talk about a little bit your background in your business experiences. So what got you typically interested in helping lawyers and to scale their companies?
Well, I will go back because I guess I come by the entrepreneurial mindset. Honestly, I didn't know. I mean, I knew my father was self-employed, but I didn't know or find out till I was well into my 40s that his father was self-employed. His father was self-employed and his father was self-employed. So there's a line of that. And obviously I got some gene. So I started my first business with no experience at 25, built a national event. That actually brought me out to Vancouver, and I looked around and went, what am I doing living in Toronto? Mountains and ocean. Anyway, fast forward, after years of being involved politically, I found myself as campaign manager for a lawyer. And he was a blank canvas. Remember what I said about that openness, letting the wall down?
Yeah.
He totally let the wall down. And this guy's, I mean, we stayed friends all these years. I coached his wife a number of times in different projects, but she's also a lawyer. Anyway, he was a blank canvas for me. Highly intellectual. 2 master's degrees, geology and law. So right brain, woo, Olympic level training. Left brain, couch potato, binging Netflix. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was open. He was a sponge. He listened. He took what I said. He practiced it, and he ended up being an amazing candidate. Right? He didn't win. That's the riding and the federal and blah 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 blah. But he was an amazing candidate. During that time, a very close friend of his who had left the law and went on to run a company, a family business, said to me one day, he said, Gary, I've watched what you've done with so-and-so. I'll keep his name anonymous. It's really amazing to see what you've done and your ability to work with highly intellectual people and break down these soft skills into simple, practical steps that they can learn and follow. You should look at the legal industry. They need help in business. And I'm like, what? The legal industry? They're either first or second profession on the planet in the history of humanity. They need help. I began my research. Wow. I started with my friends who were lawyers who I knew from my political involvement, because there's always tons of lawyers involved in politics. They introduced me to some of their management professionals, and I went online and I learned what was going on in the United States. For about 9 months, I conducted research, and I was like stunned, just stunned. In reality, I actually was one of the first lawyer coaches in Canada, definitely first in Vancouver. There were some in the United States, but it was still relatively, this is back in 2006. It was still relatively new. And many people would say it's still relatively new in 2023. But that's kind of how I got into it, because when I had run for parliament myself. I had done some, like in the first business I ran, I was on national television promoting the event. So I had been used to being in the limelight myself. Okay. But during this process of working with this candidate, I'm behind the scenes helping him and he's in the limelight. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is pretty awesome. This is amazing to see how I'm helping transform him and see his growth. And it's like, I don't need to be in the limelight. I don't need to be out front.
Different kind of satisfaction.
This was a life-altering aha moment for me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I like this. This is amazing. So that's the part of my juice is being able to help someone and see them grow and transform and go on to become successful from what I've been able to give them. And I mean, I have lawyers. Lawyers work for me to do things. I would never try to be a lawyer on my own, right?
Yeah.
I go to them and some of them come to me. And it's been amazing. I mean, I always say, like, growing up, if you asked me, would I ever be a lawyer coach with 3 published books, hundreds of articles, and now hosting a podcast, I'd look at you like you just took a foreign substance.
Yeah.
Like,
what? Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's just that we all find the directions as we grow, right? So figure out but it's opportunities, whatever the opportunity takes you sometime, right? So, you just got to chase those dreams. We're interested.
And be open, right?
Yeah, be open.
And be open.
Yeah.
Like, this kind of it came to me. And I'm very grateful. Every day I wake up, I pinch myself. I'm like, I make a living from helping people. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, different kind of satisfaction than you doing yourself, right?
Yep.
Well, very interesting. Hey, I learned so much from you, Gary. I think there's so much wisdom. I'll the business owners or law firms or whoever's watching, hey, reach out to you, have a discussion. Just have a discussion. Who knows where that opportunity is going to take them or take you? Just open to be discussion. Just reach out to you, connect with you, have a discussion, and I'll leave it to that and see what comes out of it. But I think it's a worthwhile just having a quick discussion with you and learning, what how can you help them? Where can people find you, Gary?
Gary, 1R at ontrack.coach.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm there all the time. And, Gurmeet, I just launched my own podcast series, so I will have to return the favor and have you on as a guest. And we'll come up with some topics that your background and experience could benefit the legal industry and lawyers. Sure. So, no, it's great. I mean, these are the first steps, having conversations, talking about the issues that all businesses face. Yeah. It's funny because everybody wants to feel special, right? Yeah. Everyone, I would say, yeah, okay, good. What are you first?
Yeah.
Human.
End of the day, business is about humans, right? You're just helping each other and you get somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta get a link for your podcast. I'll include all the links to your website, to your LinkedIn page below this video as well. So people can
the podcast is the LawBiz BIZ podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel.
Beautiful. So I'm going to include all those links below this video. People can click a button and they can reach out to you. They can connect with you. And, I encourage everybody, reach out to you, man. Have a quick chat with you and see where that takes you. But I want to acknowledge your time, Gary. Thank you so much for spending time with me. It was a pleasure talking to you. I learned a lot. So I'm sure people are going to get great value out of this discussion and they're going to learn quite a bit as well.
My pleasure, Gurmeet. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Thanks, Gary.